So we just looked at 243 products, apps, mostly for about 5 platforms. What are your overall impressions about the state of children's narrative-driven interactive media products for the last 12 months?
Well, I thought there was some very strong final list, the short list, but I thought there was also a lot of things being trotted out which were kind of very repetitious and samey. But it does raise some questions about where this form's going, I think, and how much we become these conventions of just doing the same sort of stories that you jab at, really.
This was the entire list right here, the judging forum. You can see I went through entire 2 pages before I even got to one that I thought deserved our attention. So it seemed like there was a lot of, not necessarily poor quality products, but just medium quality products. Sort of animations sprinkled around in pages, a lot of page flippers, we use the term.
We all got very fed up with page flipping, I think.
Yeah.
Particularly in kids' because it just sort of got in the way and it made things not work well often.
And you immediately find out that there's no need for that. And you want to read a story without getting stuck with the old book format, the paper book format.
But also that there is a kind of interactivity that fits well with the story, and it's not just that you have to have everything in a page. It can be simple, it can be not very complex, but very useful for the story you are reading.
So speaking of some of those really magical effects or things, what were some high points? We mentioned the balloon. Where do balloons go? The story starts with a question that every child wonders, where do balloons go, and they float away. It turns the child's finger into a stethoscope, so you can listen around the page where the sounds. Never seen that before, and that was one where like, oh, that's great.
And sometimes the animation don't have to overcome the story itself.
The final group had a lot of that. It made you understand that you don't need a lot of fireworks to make the project work.
The case in point was corners,
Yes.
right? I mean, it's so simple. I could have designed the art, and but the idea was so clear, and the story was so strong. So really, the main part of any app is the story, the idea, the central idea.
And I think the other thing, I mean, so the colours look beautiful on these devices. So Rita the Lizard, where there's a beautiful picture of a giraffe, and you can just scroll on and scroll and go right the way up the neck. Something you couldn't do in a book, which just works beautifully.
And we were looking for products that went beyond the page.
Also, the other thing, you don't have to spend a lot of money, because somehow
yes,
the title has been done by
Well,
very...
animation shouldn't be like something
No.
to add up at any cost,
And-
let's say.
and
It should
it's
be
more-
more connected to the story and to making the story work as
And there's more
in the
group of
structure.
people. You don't need to have, but
Yeah.
it's very clear idea.
Just
And
talking about money, it's good to see 2 years past that you don't need to have a big company with a big team to make good projects.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of small teams working together to do some of the best that we've seen.
it's more ideas than money.
Yes, imagination.
Imagination.
A nice one called We Are Alaska, where the
Oh, yes, the
stories
one
were
for
written and
the kids.
illustrated, and the app was kind of built with children doing the voices. It was their stories,
Yes.
Yes.
using a framework which could be repeated, but
Yeah.
doing really nice original things with it.
Yeah, and great text scaffolding in that too.
Which is kind of the opposite of very fancy, completely uniquely made, slightly repetitive things, which is the other end of it, obviously.
Aesthetically, you know, in terms of the graphics and the sounds, does this add or take away from the print counterpart?
Yes, we've seen some poor use of some of these devices. There's a lot of annoying noises that still come.
So, note to publishers, a mute switch is always a good idea.
But
No, and
also,
also-
if you've got beautiful drawings, it's just sometimes it felt like then somebody that wandered into the office was made to do
Yes.
the reading. That kind of imbalance between the different.
What was the
elements.
title where you built the art out? There were several where, it started with white space or a blank screen. The child touched and would build it. I think that principle is so important to make sure that there's a transaction that's even between the child and the screen, rather than the screen always trying to push the experience at the child.
I mean, interaction immediately detracts in a way, doesn't it? Instead of reading a story, you start prodding things to see if they're going to do something. So every time you kind of demand that the reader does that, I think you have to make it worth their
And
while.
also, I think that the other thing that you have to think about this kind of device is that sometimes it's not a single person using it,
Yeah.
but you have social reading and using the
Which
same
is one of the
device.
reasons we like
And I think
Endless
it's
Endless
very
Alphabet,
important
because Andrea and I could build the word
so
together.
you can work
Yes, you
together
have
and do different things on the page.
Yeah,
That
correct.
is something very, either you are parents and kids, or if you are a group of kids working
Yeah.
and reading together.
And
I
some
think
worked
it's
because
very,
you could be very busy
Yes.
and do lots, and it still didn't get in the way. And
It's-
others kind of restricted your possibilities.
I'd like to submit Article A, 2 dead iPads with fingerprints all over them. Look at those
if
fingerprints.
you want, I can give you some.
Yes, we should officially clean the screens. Well, I mentioned iPads. What about other platforms this year? We definitely saw more entries on Android than last year.
Also, there are things which work, like Nutcracker was one, which worked beautifully on the phone. It was actually worked
Yes.
better on a small screen. It scrolled up rather than across, and that worked very well. So it's not about different brands, but about different
And we enjoyed
devices.
that one.
The other thing that we have seen some series that we didn't have last year, some magazine and some series.
Mhm.
Also repeating
Also
the format, and
repeating
just
the format,
changing
but adding
images
different
and-
thing or adding different character. I think
Yeah.
it's
Like Franklin the Frog and
yeah, like Frank and Frog
Yeah.
and the penguin, but there are
and also Nutcracker and the other
Nutcracker
one.
or also the
So, one of your favorite apps, favorite things from this year that you want to talk about?
Well, favorite are the windows, right?
Favorite, I agree.
Okay.
I feel very good about our choices. In Identicat, also Rita the Lizard. The retinal display, just gorgeous colors. I mean, so rich. And then with Identicat, where you could, I've seen millions of these puzzles, but the fact that you could see the hint and spring back and forth.
You can think of Warhorse as a good example of what an app should be.
Or how an app can enhance a book, a
Yes.
traditional
Yeah.
book.
Yes, because you can have a lot more than just a story, and in the same space, in the same app, you can have investigation being done around the theme, the whole theme, and you can do it at the same time as you're reading the story without interfering
Through the
with
long, hard
understanding
winters
of the-
and hazy
of the
summers
text.
that follow.
If any person interested in the reference category should make sure you look at the state of the art, and that would be what Touch Press is doing.
Yes.
And actually, a great moment was the IPO, like
Oh, yes.
stories of Edgar Allan Poe, and at the end of it, there's this real kind of scary thing, like this thing that sort of pops up, genuinely frightening. And actually, it doesn't make a noise, but it buzzes in your hand. And that the sense that people really are beginning to get the hang of how to make these things work, and that there's promise. The good ones are going to get better.
I like the winner of the fiction. It was I laughed since the beginning.
Since the very beginning.
Yes, because it's emotion.
With
It's
the saw coming
Yes,
at
there
the
is
cut the corners off.
yes, and it's very, very simple, but it tells a nice story. It has inspirational ideas for kids that no one left behind, and I think in a very simple and very nice way, with a lot of humor inside.
pleasure serving with you. I would like to formally conclude this year's judging process of the BolognaRagazzi Digital Prize. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. See you.